The sky burned a strange orange that evening, casting long shadows over the city ruins. Among the crumbled buildings and broken streets, silence felt heavy. A single human figure, cloaked in dust and determination, moved through the wreckage. This was Mara, a survivor, and tonight, she was not just surviving, she was planning. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the ones who called themselves the architects watched and waited. They claimed to own life itself, to hold the key to creation and death, but Mara and the others were ready to prove that humanity still had a choice. The world had changed quickly. Only a few years ago, humans had laughed at the idea of beings who could manipulate life. Then the architects appeared. At first, they offered miracles, curing diseases, restoring youth, even bringing back the dead. Cities celebrated their arrival, festivals were held in their honor, and humans called them gods. But soon, the gifts came with chains. People who refused the architects' experiments disappeared. Entire towns were erased from the records, as if they had never existed. Humanity realized too late that they had been tricked. Mara had not forgotten the first time she saw the architect's power. She had been a child, her father taken for a life enhancement, never to return. Her mother had cried for weeks before the soldiers came to silence her. Mara had learned early that fear could not be allowed to rule. She trained herself in secret, gathering knowledge, weapons, and allies. Every night she listened to the whispers of the city, muted radio signals, hidden networks, coded messages left by other survivors. Humanity was scattered, but it was not yet defeated. The first attack came without warning. Mara crouched behind a twisted metal beam as a patrol of the architect's drones passed overhead. They hovered silently, eyes glowing like fireflies, scanning for life signs. Mara's pulse raced, but she waited, knowing that impatience could be fatal. The drones moved on, leaving her side of the street untouched. When the last machine had disappeared into the orange sky, Mara breathed deeply. Tonight would not be easy, but it would be the beginning. She reached the meeting point, a hidden basement beneath the remains of a library. Inside, others had gathered, scientists, engineers, former soldiers, and ordinary people who refused to be enslaved. The air was thick with the smell of old books and electricity from improvised machinery. A holographic map flickered in the center of the room, showing the territories the architects controlled. Red dots blinked like warnings across the landscape. Mara's eyes lingered on the largest, the capital city where the architects had their headquarters. That was the heart. Destroying it would not be simple, but it was the only chance humanity had to reclaim freedom. "Are you ready?" whispered Eli, an engineer whose hands were always stained with oil. He looked at Mara with a mixture of fear and determination. She nodded, her eyes steady. "We have to be," she said. "They believe they own life itself. They think they are gods. We'll show them what humans can do when we fight back." Plans were made, and roles assigned. Mara would lead a small strike team to gather intelligence inside the city. Others would work on disrupting communications, hacking the drones, and spreading messages to scattered human settlements. Every detail mattered. One mistake, and the architects would know of their existence, and humanity's last chance would vanish. As night deepened, Mara walked alone on the rooftops, overlooking the city. The glow of distant fires painted the horizon red, and the air hummed with the quiet sound of machines. Somewhere below, a human life flickered, a family hiding, waiting, hoping. Mara's heart ached, but she forced herself to focus. The architects were not invincible. They were not eternal. They were beings who could be seen, studied, and fought. And for the first time in years, Mara felt the spark of hope. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden noise, a soft mechanical click, too precise to be accidental. Mara froze. Shadows moved in the alley below. A figure emerged, glowing faintly in the dim light. It was not human. The architect's soldiers were always near, even when they seemed far away. Mara's hand went to the small blade at her belt, but the figure only watched. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished into the night. Mara exhaled slowly. This was just the beginning. Somewhere deep in her chest, she felt a fire ignite. The fire of defiance, the fire of humanity. The architects had claimed to own life itself, but they had underestimated one thing: the will to survive, the will to fight, the human spirit. And tonight, that spirit was waking. The night stretched on, filled with distant sounds of engines and quiet whispers. Mara knew the coming days would be dangerous. Every step would carry risk, every decision could be deadly. But she also knew that the moment had come. Humanity would fight back, not because they had a choice, but because they had life worth defending. And Mara, leading the first strike, would be the spark that ignited the rebellion. The first light of dawn crept over the horizon, painting the city in pale shades of gray. Mara crouched atop a broken building, her eyes scanning the streets below. The city seemed empty, but she knew better. The architects' forces were always watching, always waiting. One wrong step, one careless move, and the rebellion would be crushed before it even began. Beside her, Eli adjusted a small device on his wrist. "This will mask our heat signatures," he whispered. "If the drones spot us, it will only see shadows." Mara nodded, impressed by the engineer's ingenuity. Every tool, every plan mattered. The smallest advantage could tip the balance between life and death. The strike team moved silently through the ruins, sticking to the shadows, avoiding the patrols. They passed crumbled statues and shattered windows, reminders of a world the architects had promised to protect but instead had enslaved. Mara's mind wandered for a moment to the people she had left behind: friends, families, neighbors, before she shook herself. There was no time for memories now. Every heartbeat, every breath, had to be focused on the mission. They reached the outer walls of the capital city. Massive gates, reinforced with materials Mara had never seen before, loomed in front of them. The streets beyond were eerily quiet. Even the wind seemed afraid to move. Mara signaled for the team to stop. She could see the faint glow of surveillance towers, eyes that never blinked. Eli placed a small, humming device at the base of the gate. "This will disable the security for a few minutes," he explained. "Just enough for us to slip inside." Mara's team held their breath as the device worked. The gates groaned and shifted, opening slowly. The moment felt unreal. Every second seemed to stretch into eternity. Then, with a soft click, the gate opened fully. Mara motioned for the team to move. One step at a time, they entered the city, their hearts pounding like drums. Inside, the streets were clean, almost sterile. Tall buildings, shimmering with metal and glass, rose into the sky. Screens flashed messages of loyalty and obedience. The architect's presence was everywhere, yet Mara felt a strange emptiness. The people were gone, or perhaps hiding. Fear had turned the city into a ghost town. They reached their first checkpoint, a central hub that controlled communications and surveillance. Mara signaled Eli forward. The engineer worked quickly, his fingers dancing over holographic panels. "Almost there," he whispered. Sparks flew from the machinery, and the team held their positions, listening for any sign of alarms. The tension was unbearable, each second stretching longer than the last. Suddenly, a soft beep. Eli froze, then smiled. "We're in." The communications hub was theirs, if only for a little while. Mara let herself exhale, but only briefly. Time was short. Messages went out to hidden human settlements, warning them that the rebellion had begun. Other messages disrupted drone patrols, giving humanity scattered across the city a chance to move, to fight back, to survive. But their moment of success was short-lived. A low hum filled the air, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps. Mara's heart skipped a beat. Shadows moved along the walls, soldiers of the architects, faster than any human could run, trained to eliminate threats without hesitation. Mara grabbed her weapon, and the team prepared for a fight. The soldiers appeared, glowing faintly, their eyes cold and unfeeling. They moved in perfect synchronization, surrounding Mara's team. For a moment, it seemed like the mission would fail before it had truly begun. But Mara did not falter. She signaled the team to spread out, using the maze of streets to their advantage. Chaos erupted. Blasts echoed through the empty streets, sparks flew, and machines whirred as humans clashed with beings who claimed to control life itself. Mara moved with precision, striking only when necessary, her mind sharp despite the fear. Each enemy defeated was a small victory, a proof that the architects were not gods, they were just beings with power, and power could be challenged. After what felt like hours, the team regrouped in a narrow alley, breathing heavily, their bodies tired but their spirits unbroken. Mara looked at the city around them. It was still dangerous, still full of enemies, but she could feel it. Humanity had made its first mark. They had entered the heart of the enemy's territory, disrupted their control, and reminded the architects that humans were not helpless. Mara's eyes burned with determination. This was only the beginning. Every step, every risk, every life saved or lost, was part of a larger battle. The architects had claimed to own life, but humanity had something they could never take away: courage, defiance, and hope. And Mara, leading the first strike, would carry that spark into every corner of the city, igniting the rebellion that would grow until the architects learned one terrible truth: life belonged to no one but its own. Night began to fall again, and the orange glow of the horizon returned. Mara and her team found a hidden rooftop to rest, their eyes scanning the city below. Somewhere, beyond the shadows, the architects were watching. But now, they would also fear. The rebellion had begun, and humanity was no longer silent. Night had fallen completely, and the city was bathed in shadows. Mara crouched behind a rooftop ledge, listening to the distant hum of drones and the soft, eerie glow of the streets below. Her strike team had survived the first encounter, but the taste of victory was sharp and fleeting. They had learned quickly that the architects did not forgive mistakes. Every sound, every movement could mean death. Eli adjusted the makeshift cloaking device on his wrist. "We only have a few hours before the patrols return," he whispered. His voice was steady, but Mara noticed the tension in his hands. "We need to move quickly." Mara nodded, scanning the streets. She could see faint movements below, small groups of humans, hiding, waiting, hoping. They had heard the broadcasts from the communications hub, and now some dared to come out of hiding. For the first time in years, humans were showing signs of defiance. "Look at them," Mara said softly. "They're not afraid anymore." A shadow shifted across the rooftop. Mara tensed, but it was only Lyra, a former soldier and scout. She handed Mara a small device. "This will jam the drones in the next district," Lyra said. "It's our chance to take the fight closer to their headquarters." Mara took the device, feeling a thrill of hope. Every step they took inside the city was dangerous, but each small victory mattered. The rebellion could grow if humans dared to act, and tonight, they would. They moved swiftly through alleys and abandoned buildings, keeping to the shadows. Occasionally, the distant glow of the city lights revealed patrols moving silently. Mara's team paused whenever a drone hovered nearby, waiting until it moved on before continuing. The tension was like a physical weight pressing on their shoulders, but they pressed forward anyway. Finally, they reached the district closest to the central hub. Mara planted the jamming device on a tall antenna, and a soft hum confirmed it was working. Below them, drone patrols faltered, their signals disrupted. The humans in hiding began to stir, some emerging from the shadows, emboldened by the disruption. Mara's heart lifted. This was what they needed, a spark to ignite hope. But then came the sound of footsteps behind them, faster and heavier than anything they had faced before. Mara spun, weapon ready. A figure emerged from the darkness, glowing faintly with the eerie light that marked the architects. Its movements were precise, almost inhuman. The team froze. This was no ordinary soldier. It was one of the architect's elite, sent to hunt and eliminate threats. Mara's mind raced. Retreat was impossible. They were surrounded by potential allies below and the elite soldier above. She signaled the team. "Split up. Draw it away." Chaos erupted as Mara and Lyra sprinted across the rooftops. The elite followed, each step deliberate, unfeeling, unstoppable. But Mara had learned something in the ruins of the old world: humans were unpredictable. She led the figure on a chase through narrow alleys and crumbling stairways. Each twist and turn slowed the soldier, while the team below moved to rally the humans hiding in the streets. Eli and the others had begun to spread out, signaling with small lights and sounds. People emerged, armed with whatever they could find: pipes, knives, even rocks. They were not soldiers, but they were determined. Together, they created confusion, making the elite architect hesitate, just enough for Mara to act. She leaped from a ledge onto a lower rooftop, landing with a roll and sprinting toward a narrow passage. The elite followed, but the shadows and chaos worked in Mara's favor. She glanced back and saw the humans below starting to fight, inspired by the strike team. For the first time, humans were standing up openly against the architects, and the effect was immediate. The elite faltered, uncertain. Mara's breath came in ragged gasps, but she did not stop. She knew this was the moment the rebellion needed. Proof that humans could fight, that they could survive, and that the architect's power was not absolute. She had one more trick. Reaching a pile of rubble, she kicked it down a narrow alley, causing a cascade of debris. The elite soldier stumbled, its glowing eyes flickering. The team regrouped in a hidden courtyard, the echoes of battle fading behind them. Mara looked around. The humans in the district were no longer hiding, they were helping each other, moving supplies, and setting small traps for patrols. A spark had ignited. Eli exhaled, wiping sweat from his brow. We did it. They're scared now. Mara's eyes burned with determination. This is just the beginning. The architects believed they controlled life itself. They thought humans were weak, predictable, and easy to manipulate. They were wrong. Every person who fights back, every small victory, takes their control away. As night deepened, the city seemed different. The silence of fear was replaced by the hum of rebellion. Somewhere in the distance, the elite architect recovered and moved silently again, but Mara did not flinch. The humans were awake now, and their spirit could not be extinguished. She stared at the horizon, imagining the next steps, the strikes, the communications, the rallies of hidden humans rising together. The architects had claimed life, but Mara and the rebellion were learning to take it back, piece by piece. And in the shadows, the architects were watching, realizing for the first time that humanity would not submit quietly. The city was alive with whispers now. Hidden in the ruins and abandoned buildings, humans moved with purpose, guided by Mara and her strike team. The rebellion had begun, and the architects could feel it. Every step Mara took, every signal Eli sent, every small victory fueled hope and fear. Mara crouched on the edge of a rooftop, watching the streets below. A group of humans was moving quietly toward a supply depot, their shadows flickering against the broken walls. She felt pride and anxiety in the same heartbeat. Pride for their courage, anxiety for the danger ahead. The architects would not let their hold slip easily. Something's wrong, whispered Lyra, scanning the horizon with her binoculars. There's a patrol moving faster than usual. And they're using new technology. Mara's heart tightened. The architects were adapting. Every move she made, they learned. The rebellion had to act faster, smarter, or risk being crushed. She tapped her communicator. Eli, any new readings on their drones? Yeah, came the reply, voice tense. They're faster, stronger. And they're equipped with thermal tracking. Our old cloaking tech won't last long. Mara clenched her fists. They had survived the first strikes, but the architects were changing the rules of the game. The humans in hiding needed more than courage, they needed strategy, and Mara had one plan that could turn the tide. They moved through the shadows, avoiding patrols with careful precision. The plan was simple: strike at a key communications hub, disrupt the architects' network, and spread the rebellion across the city. It was risky, but every human alive depended on success. Mara's mind raced with calculations, paths, timing, and contingencies. Every second mattered. As they neared the hub, a sudden explosion shook the ground. Mara ducked instinctively, dust and debris filling the air. A section of the street had collapsed, revealing an ambush. The elite architect from the previous night stood among a group of soldiers, glowing faintly, waiting. Its eyes locked on Mara, unblinking, unyielding. "This is it," Mara whispered. "We either fight or die trying." The teams spread out, using the chaos to their advantage. Mara leaped from one broken wall to another, drawing the elite's attention while Eli and Lyra moved to disable the hub. Sparks flew and metal clanged as the humans clashed with the architect forces. The noise was deafening, yet in the midst of battle, Mara noticed something strange. The humans were not panicking. They were fighting back, coordinating silently, inspired by the small victories of the previous night. Mara dodged a blast that shattered a nearby wall and rolled into cover. The elite architect advanced, its movements fluid and deadly. But Mara had learned to predict its patterns, its rhythm, and she struck when it hesitated. A sharp kick, a toss of a smoke grenade, and the creature faltered, momentarily blinded. Eli's voice crackled through the communicator. "The hub is nearly offline. 5 more minutes and the city's network will be disrupted." Mara fought to hold the elite off, using agility, speed, and every trick she knew. She felt exhaustion clawing at her, but she could not stop. Every second counted. The humans below were now taking up arms, some armed with scavenged weapons, others with pure determination. Their cries echoed through the streets, a chorus of rebellion that even the architects could not ignore. Finally, with a coordinated strike, Eli disabled the hub. Lights across the city flickered, drone patrols paused, and chaos spread through the architect network. Mara seized the moment, using the confusion to evade the elite architect. She led her team through narrow passages, back into the shadows where they could regroup. Breathing heavily, Mara looked at her team. They were battered, bruised, but alive. Around them, humans emerged from hiding, helping the wounded, carrying supplies, and cheering quietly. For the first time, the rebellion felt real, tangible. But Mara knew the victory was temporary. The architects would retaliate, and their next strike would be brutal. This fight was far from over. She touched her communicator. "We've made our mark, but we're not safe. Prepare for counterattack. We need to move deeper into the city and gather more support. Humanity is waking, and we cannot let them crush us now." As night deepened, Mara stood on a high ledge, looking over the city. Fires burned in distant districts, a mix of destruction and hope. She felt a fire inside her, a burning certainty that humans could fight, survive, and reclaim what the architects had stolen. Life was theirs, not the architects. Somewhere in the darkness, she sensed eyes watching. The elite architect had not been defeated, only delayed. It would return, stronger, more relentless. But Mara smiled faintly. Humanity was no longer silent, no longer hiding. They were awake, and the spark of rebellion had become a flame. The streets below whispered with the sound of hope. Mara's mind raced with plans for the next strike, the next challenge, and the next rallying of humans who had been too long afraid. Tonight, the architects had felt the first tremors of defiance. And Mara knew that the tremors would become an earthquake. The city woke to a new kind of fear. The streets, once filled with whispers of hope, now shook under the relentless advance of the architects' forces. Mara crouched behind a broken wall, surveying the devastation. Smoke rose in columns from burning buildings, and the distant hum of drones had become a deafening roar. This was no small patrol. This was a full assault. Eli checked their small devices frantically. "They've deployed new machines," he said, voice tight. "Faster, stronger, and they're coordinating. This isn't a fight, they're hunting us." Mara clenched her fists. She had known this moment would come. Every act of defiance, every human victory, had been a signal. The architects would strike back with everything they had. But she refused to retreat. Humanity had fought too long in silence. Now, they would stand. The strike team moved through narrow alleys, using shadows and debris for cover. Mara signaled to Lyra and Eli. "We need to reach the old subway tunnels. They're underground, harder to detect. We can regroup, plan, and strike back from there." The streets trembled as the first wave of architect soldiers appeared, moving with a precision that seemed unnatural. Their eyes glowed faintly, scanning for life. Mara's heart pounded. Every instinct screamed for caution, yet she pushed forward, leading the team with unwavering determination. A sudden blast tore through a nearby wall. Mara threw herself into cover as dust and rubble rained down. One of the soldiers had detected their presence. The elite architect from previous encounters appeared, its movements fluid, deadly, unstoppable. Mara's stomach tightened. This was the moment they had been preparing for, the test of all their courage and skill. "Scatter!" Mara shouted. The team split, weaving through the alleys, drawing the soldiers away from the humans who were now emerging in greater numbers. Civilians armed with scavenged weapons joined the fight. They were not soldiers, but desperation and courage made them formidable. The architects had underestimated the human spirit. Mara led the elite through a maze of narrow streets, using every trick she had learned in the ruins. She ducked, rolled, and dodged, keeping the creature off balance. Sparks flew from shattered walls and broken machinery as humans engaged in guerrilla attacks, striking at the soldiers from hidden positions. The city itself had become a battlefield, and humanity had learned to fight on its own terms. Eli and Lyra worked frantically to disable the architect communication nodes. Each node destroyed caused confusion among the enemy forces. Drones faltered, patrols slowed, and the humans below gained ground. Mara could feel the tide shifting, even as danger pressed from every side. But the elite architect was relentless. It adapted, predicting movements, forcing Mara into a corner. Her mind raced, calculating options, weighing risks. One misstep, one hesitation, and it would be over. She remembered the faces of the people she had fought for, the families hiding, the children watching, the survivors hoping. She could not fail. Mara saw a narrow stairwell leading to an abandoned warehouse. She dove inside, drawing the elite after her. It followed, confident, but the space was too tight. Mara kicked a loose metal beam, sending it crashing down. Sparks flew, metal screeched, and the architect staggered, momentarily disoriented. She seized the chance, running deeper into the warehouse where her team had regrouped. Inside, the humans were ready. They had prepared traps, barricades, and hidden weapons. Mara led the counterattack. The elite architect fell into a series of pitfalls and obstacles. With coordinated strikes, the humans forced it back, finally retreating into the shadows, wounded but alive. The first victory of the day was theirs. Breathing heavily, Mara looked at her team. Exhaustion marked their faces, but their eyes burned with determination. The city outside was still dangerous, still under threat, but they had survived, and more importantly, they had struck back. Eli wiped sweat from his brow. "We slowed them down. For now." Mara nodded, her mind already planning the next move. "They will return. Stronger, smarter. But so will we. Humanity is awake, and every person who fights with us makes us stronger." They claimed to own life itself, but they've learned a dangerous truth: humans will never be silent again. The sun began to set, casting long shadows over the city. Fires burned, buildings crumbled, and the hum of distant machines served as a reminder of the constant threat. But Mara felt hope. Every strike, every victory, every human who dared to fight was a spark that could ignite the rebellion into a wildfire. From her perch, she watched the city, imagining the next steps, the strikes, the rescues, the hidden messages spreading through the streets. The architects had brought destruction to the city, but they had also awakened a force they could not control. Mara's eyes met those of her team. No words were needed. They knew what was coming, and they were ready. Humanity had been tested, and the fire of rebellion had been lit. The architects would not dominate this world without a fight. And Mara would lead that fight, no matter the cost. The city was alive with a new energy. Where fear had once ruled, hope now stirred. Mara moved through the streets with her strike team, their presence a beacon for humans who had long hidden in silence. The rebellion was growing, spreading like wildfire through the abandoned districts. Every victory, no matter how small, fueled their courage. Eli adjusted a small device on his shoulder. "We've jammed their signals in most of the city," he said, voice tight with urgency. Their drones are confused, and the patrols are disorganized. This is our chance to strike the heart of their operations." Mara's eyes narrowed. The architects had claimed to control life itself, but every day, they had underestimated humanity's spirit. They had learned too late that humans were unpredictable, fearless when cornered, and relentless when fighting for survival. The strike team moved carefully, using alleys and rooftops to stay unseen. Below, groups of humans joined the rebellion, armed with scavenged weapons and guided by Mara's signals. The city was no longer empty, it was alive with defiance. Mara felt a spark of pride and determination. They had taken the first steps, and now the momentum was theirs. Their target was the central control tower, where the architects coordinated surveillance and drone patrols. Reaching it would be dangerous, but victory there would cripple the enemy's hold on the city. Mara led the way, signaling her team to spread out. Lyra and Eli moved ahead to disable the outer defenses while Mara prepared for confrontation. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath them. A massive drone, larger and faster than anything they had faced before, appeared in the sky. Its glowing red eyes scanned the streets, searching for life. Mara ducked behind a pile of rubble, signaling the humans below to take cover. Eli whispered urgently, "This one is different. We can't take it head-on." Mara nodded. Strategy was their only weapon now. She noticed a construction site nearby, a series of steel beams and rubble stacked precariously. An idea formed in her mind. "Lead it toward the site," she said. "We'll use the environment against it." The team moved as one, drawing the massive drone into the trap. Mara sprinted across the streets, narrowly avoiding its scanning beams. The humans below created distractions, throwing debris and activating small devices to confuse it further. Step by step, the drone moved closer to the construction site, unaware of the danger ahead. At the perfect moment, Mara signaled Lyra, who activated a makeshift pulley system. Massive steel beams toppled, crashing onto the drone with a deafening roar. Sparks flew, metal twisted, and the drone collapsed in a heap, its glowing red eyes extinguished. The humans erupted in quiet cheers, but Mara knew better than to celebrate. The architects would respond, and soon. They pressed on, reaching the central control tower. It loomed above them, sleek and intimidating, but Mara's determination did not waver. Inside, machines hummed, lights flickered, and the air was thick with the presence of the architects. Every corner could hide danger, every shadow could conceal an enemy. Eli hacked the main terminal, his fingers flying across holographic controls. "I've almost got it," he whispered. Mara's heart pounded. If they could shut down the tower, the city would be theirs, at least for a moment. Then came the sound Mara had feared, the soft, precise footsteps of the elite architect. It emerged from the shadows, eyes glowing with deadly intent. Mara faced it squarely, determination burning in her chest. This battle was not just for survival. It was for every human who had been silenced, for every life the architects had claimed. The fight was intense. The elite moved with speed and precision, but Mara was agile, unpredictable, and fueled by rage and hope. She dodged, countered, and struck, using every lesson she had learned. Below, humans fought off other soldiers, creating chaos that Mara could exploit. Eli shouted, "I've done it. The control systems are offline." Instantly, drones faltered, lights went out across the city, and the architect's surveillance crumbled. The humans below surged forward, emboldened, taking control of key areas. Mara faced the elite one last time. With a decisive strike, she forced it to retreat into the shadows, wounded and disoriented. The battle was won, for now. The humans had reclaimed the streets, and the rebellion had proved that the architects were not invincible. Breathing heavily, Mara looked over the city. Fires burned, but they were joined by lights of hope, signals of defiance, lives rising against oppression. Humanity had turned the tide, showing that courage and determination could match even godlike power. Mara spoke softly to her team. "This is only the beginning. They will return, stronger, angrier. But tonight, we have shown them what humans are capable of. We fight not because we must, but because we can. Life belongs to no one but those who live it. The city hummed with a new rhythm, the rhythm of rebellion, of humans reclaiming what had been taken, of courage and hope standing against tyranny. Mara knew the architects had underestimated them, and that mistake could be fatal. As night fell, Mara stood on a high rooftop, looking at the horizon. The battle was not over, but the first major victory belonged. The city was quiet now, but the calm was deceptive. Mara stood on a rooftop, looking down at the streets below. Humans had reclaimed much of the city, but the architects were gathering their strength for a final assault. This was it, the decisive moment. The fate of humanity and the control of life itself would be decided tonight. Eli and Lyra joined her, their faces marked by exhaustion and determination. "They've brought reinforcements," Eli said, checking a small display. "Drones, soldiers, even some of their advanced machines. They're coming in waves." Mara's eyes burned with resolve. "Then we fight. Not just for survival, but for freedom, for every human life they've tried to claim. We end this tonight." The team moved through the streets with precision, rallying humans wherever they could. The city had become a network of resistance, with humans ready to defend every corner, every alley, every building. Mara felt hope surge. This was no longer a small rebellion. Humanity was awake, united, and unbroken. From the horizon, the architect forces appeared, glowing ominously, moving with deadly synchronization. The air hummed with the sound of hovering drones, the metallic clank of soldiers, and the faint electrical pulse of their machines. The humans prepared traps, barricades, and ambushes, using every advantage the ruined city offered. Mara led her team toward the central tower, the heart of the architects' operations. Their plan was risky. They needed to strike at the source to cripple the enemy completely. The streets were a battlefield. Blasts of energy lit up the night as drones clashed with humans, soldiers fought for every building, and chaos reigned. The elite architect appeared at the front of the enemy forces, glowing with deadly precision. Mara met its gaze. There was no fear, only determination. "This ends tonight," she whispered. The fight was intense. Mara moved with skill, dodging blasts, leading attacks, and inspiring humans around her. Lyra and Eli sabotaged drones and communications, weakening the enemy's coordination. The humans fought bravely, their courage matched only by their desperation. Every life mattered, every strike counted. Mara faced the elite architect in the central plaza. Its movements were faster and stronger than ever, but she had learned its patterns, its strengths, and weaknesses. Using agility, clever tactics, and the chaos around her, Mara forced it into a trap. Steel beams and debris, previously set by humans, crashed down. Sparks flew, and the creature staggered. With a final, precise strike, Mara disabled the elite. Its glowing eyes dimmed, and it collapsed. The remaining architect forces faltered, disoriented by the loss of their leader. Mara seized the moment. She activated the final device Eli had prepared, a pulse that shut down the architect machines citywide. Drones fell from the sky, soldiers froze, and the hum of the machines died. Silence fell. The humans, exhausted and battered, looked around in disbelief. The city was theirs. The architects had been defeated, not through divine power, but through courage, strategy, and unyielding will. Mara stepped forward, looking at the horizon where the remaining architects had retreated. They were gone, for now, their claim to life itself shattered. Humans had proven they could fight, survive, and reclaim what was theirs. Eli and Lyra joined her, smiling faintly despite the exhaustion. "We did it," Eli said, voice trembling. "They're gone." Mara looked around at the humans who had fought, survived, and helped reclaim the city. "This is just the beginning," she said. "We've won this battle, but we must rebuild, strengthen, and ensure that no one ever claims life itself again. Humanity is awake, and we will never be silent." As dawn broke, light filled the city, revealing the destruction but also the signs of hope. People emerged from hiding, tending to the wounded, clearing debris, and helping one another. The rebellion had sparked a new beginning. Mara looked at the skyline, her heart swelling with pride and determination. Somewhere deep in the distance, the ruins of the architect's machines lay smoldering, a reminder of what had been taken and what had been reclaimed. Humans had fought back, not because they had to, but because they could. Life belonged to those who lived it, and humanity had proven it once again. Mara turned to her team, their faces weary but triumphant. "We've won today," she said. "But we fight for every tomorrow, for every human who dreams of freedom." They thought they owned life itself. They were wrong. And we will never forget that truth. The city breathed in a new rhythm, the rhythm of freedom, of defiance, and of hope. Humanity had faced the impossible, and they had survived. The architects had fallen, and for the first time in years, Mara smiled, knowing that life was truly theirs.